So recently my video of my top 10 Pokemon whose types make no sense actually became my most viewed video, and it really got me thinking. In a lot of videos I reference the Pokedex as a reliable source of information. Well, it turns out that it really isn't. There are so many wacky Pokedex entries that just can't be true. So in today's video I am going to be doing a countdown of the top 10 Pokedex entries that make no sense. First up, I'm actually going to be doing some honorable mentions. Pokemon with bizarre enough entries but didn't quite make it onto my top 10 list. We have Haunter seemingly able to kill with a single lick, Pidgeot being able to fly at a speed of Mach 2, Tyranitar and Gigalith supposedly being able to destroy mountains, let's bear in mind that they stand at around 5 and 6 foot each, Gardevoir being able to create black holes, and Regigigas being able to move continents. There are many more entries that I could reference, but I'd be here all day, so let's get on with the list. At number 10 we have Machamp. Machamp's Fire Red Pokedex entry states that it can deliver a flurry of 1000 punches in 2 seconds. This would be 125 punches per second for each fist, which is absurd. Machamp's speed stat isn't even that great either, coming in at only 55, so this is quite the bold statement. At number 9 we have Lavatah. There are numerous Pokedex entries that claim that Lavatah has to consume an entire mountain in order to evolve. Well, I don't know if it's just me, but the last time I checked, Lavatah evolves at level 30, regardless of whether or not you force-fed it a mountain. And going by this logic, then every single Pupitar and Tyranitar in the Pokemon universe has supposedly eaten a mountain. It just doesn't make sense. At number 8 we have Cavalia. Cavalia's Pokemon Black Pokedex entry states that it flies around at high speed. What is wrong with this statement? Well, Cavalia just so happens to be tied with Ferrothorn for being the slowest fully evolved Pokemon. It almost makes me wonder if those writing this entry confused Cavalia with Selgor, which happens to be the Pokemon with the highest speed stat out of all the Generation 5 Pokemon. Number 7. McCargo. McCargo's entry from Sapphire states that its body temperature is 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit, or 10,000 degrees Celsius. Let's bear in mind that the surface temperature of the sun is just over 5,500 degrees Celsius, so this would mean that McCargo's body temperature would be nearly twice that of the surface temperature of the sun. And if its body temperature is really so hot, then how has the shell on its back managed to cool enough to harden? Coming in at number 6 is Magikarp. Okay, so here's Magikarp's entry from Pokemon Platinum. It states that Magikarp are able to leap over mountains. That's all good and well until you take a look at its Heart Gold entry, which completely contradicts this by making a point of how pathetic Magikarp is, and how it can never jump more than 7 feet. Pokedex, make up your mind! At number 5 we have Shedinja. Shedinja's Pokedex entry from Diamond, Pearl and Platinum states that peering into the crack on its back is said to steal one's spirit. Well, this is creepy, but take a look at its back sprite. This happens every time a trainer with a Shedinja decides to battle, and I've never heard of any cases of any in-game trainers having their spirit stolen by a Shedinja. Creepy, but still too far-fetched to be true. Number 4. Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh's various Pokedex entries will go on and on about its 7 coloured wings. 7? The last time I checked, Ho-Oh's wings were made up of 3 colours, being green, white and red. Even counting the gold of its tail feathers, that's still only 4. The only glimmer of hope for this absurd claim is its Emerald entry, which states that its wings glow in 7 colours depending on the angle that they are struck at by light, instead of plainly stating that Ho-Oh has wings of 7 different colours. And even then, we've never even seen what its wings look like when supposedly struck by light at the right angle, so even Emerald's entry should be taken with a pinch of salt. Number 3. Magneton and Metang. These two are on the list for the exact same reason. Their respective Pokedex entries state that they are formed by the joining of multiple of their pre-evolutions. In Magneton's case, 3 Magnemite, and in Metang's case, 2 Belden. But Magnemite and Belden both evolve by level up. There is never any need to gather multiple Pokemon of the same species in order to evolve them, as the Pokedex states. Number 2. Xatu, Parasect, Raichu, Regice, Mew, Poliwrath, Delibird, Arcanine. Okay, I'll never do that again. But in all seriousness, all of these Pokemon share the number 2 spot for the same reason, being that their Pokedex entries all reference real-life locations. Of course, many of the locations in the Pokemon universe draw inspiration from real places, but they're not the same. It's confusing why they'd even bother putting so much effort into making locations unique to the Pokemon universe if they're just going to pretend that all of these real locations are part of the same universe, which just doesn't make sense. And so, in my opinion, the Pokemon whose Pokedex entry makes the least sense of all is... Spoink. Spoink's various Pokedex entries state that the shock of bouncing up and down keeps this Pokemon's heart beating, and so if it stops bouncing, it dies. While this may sound horrible, it's simply not true. There are many times when a Spoink would be unable to bounce, such as when it's in a Pokeball, and if a Spoink faints in battle, then it would certainly be unable to bounce. Does Spoink die after this? No! I think that Spoink's Pokedex entries are those which make the least sense of all due to the little truth that it actually holds. Well, that was my list of the top 10 Pokedex entries that make the least sense to me. I hope that you learned something new, and if you can think of an odd Pokedex entry that was not mentioned on this list, then be sure to let me know. Well, in any case, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!